Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, hello, Enrichers. Here we are again on the Health and Wealth Podcast show. Very, very excited today about one of our guests. But before we bring on our esteemed guest, I am also joined by my famous, amazing, spectacular co-host, Mr. Tim James.
Well, the way that intro was going, I thought you were going to talk about your wife for a minute.
You thought I was going to have a guest co-host, didn't you?
You're a good husband, dude. He's always putting his wife up on a pedestal. That's a smart thing to do for a relationship, I think. But anyway, man, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to chat with Miles, find out how he connected with you guys, and I don't know. I'm just enjoying the summer. I bought one of those enclosed trailers, like an 8.5 by 20. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting all my stuff in it. I'm getting ready for the big, what do you call it? Famine coming. Supply chain. There's actually supply chain delays. We're seeing a lot of places, and then other countries right now are already like running out of food. So there's like some major food issues with people. And so I've ordered thousands of pounds of nuts, seeds, grains, and beans. I've got half of them here. The other half are on the way. That's going to be my little storage container just in case. It's always good to have a backup. But I think, what people don't, what this is really important, it's timely, is that, if you're used to going to the grocery store and getting your food, and then all of a sudden there's nothing at the grocery store, you're probably going to freak out, right? Because you don't understand the other options. Like I was lucky enough to grow up in Eastern Oregon, out in the farm and out in the mountains and stuff. And I used to walk around when I was hunting and pick huckleberries and eat them, or, we pick morel mushrooms. The earth makes food for all other creatures and us. I mean, our food actually comes from the ground, right? Or a tree or a bush or whatever. And so what I would recommend is, if you don't want to spend thousands of dollars and you're not really too freaked out about supply chain delays, which I think it's better to be prepared. As a financial advisor, I always told my clients, hey, we always prepare for the worst and then expect the best. I think it's a smart thing to do with your food too. So my word of advice is go spend $5, $6, $7, $10 at a used bookstore, online or whatever, and get a wild edible like food book for your area on how to forage for wild edibles. Because at least if you have that book, if shit hits the fan, you can just crack the book and be like, oh, dandelions, I got those growing like crazy. I can eat those. Those are good for me. It's like, oh, red clover, that actually purifies the blood. I mean, how many people are having blood issues? Some of the most powerful foods are sitting out in your garbage or in your lawn, and we think they're garbage, and we're spraying, oh, it's weeds, we got to kill them. Even, dandelions are like one of the top 6 Chinese herbs. It's a bitter. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
So what you're saying is you bought this container to put all kinds of stuff in.
Yeah, food and ammo and stuff, and just like it's my oh shit wagon now.
I like that you threw ammo in too. So not only eating, in case anyone tries to come get your food, it's like, no, this is not for you.
Yeah, that's right. Stay out of here.
You got to be able to protect us. So, we are joined today by one of my closest, newest friends. We happen to do business together. And that's how a lot of times when we work with our financial advisors, we start out as, doing business together, but we continue doing business because, we like each other. And, Miles Veth of the Veth Group is CEO and founder. And I was speaking with him earlier in the week, or it might have been even last week. And I go, man, Miles, we got to get you on the show, on the Health and Wealth Podcast show, so we can really get out the message on what it is that you're doing for CSI Financial Group and our advisors. Eventually the advisors as well. But welcome to the show today, my man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
So, Miles, our audience, our listenership, the enrichers, as we call them, what we like to do here on the first segment is learn a little bit more about you. Now, I know you don't have a long history compared to a lot of our guests, because most of our guests are the advisors we work with. They're 50s, 60s, and, they've got a storied past. But I know you're fairly young, but you are an entrepreneur and you are hardworking. And I want to just kind of enlighten the enrichers and talk a little bit about how you got your start into like copywriting and what it was that really sort of drove you to start your own company.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So my dad's an entrepreneur, so I have had it in my blood for a long time to like to build things from scratch. So when I was in college, I started a homeless mystery where we shipped 10,000 clothing articles to the homeless of Chicago. And then when I got out of college, I worked at a large company and then ended up working in the family business and gradually realized I had a passion for marketing, and I was more able to help the people I was calling on for IT services with growing their own businesses. And that led me down a path of little by little, I met some of the right people. I got introduced to Gary Vaynerchuk. He helped me to strategize how to use LinkedIn. I started to put the word out on some of what I was doing. And then there's a Bible verse that's really simple. It says, in the abundance of counselors, there's safety. And what I have tried to do, I could show you guys, is just surround myself with minds way brighter than my own all day long. And I have more books that I could even show you here, but just to give you an idea, they're every day, they're everywhere. Just surround myself with people brighter than myself and learn things that have worked well. So one of those people has been Ray Dalio, and just understanding how he's structured, attacking a pretty complex and what I would call ambiguous problem of hedge fund investing, which I know you guys know a thing or two about. And I started to think about demand generation in the same way, of the inputs and the costs and information and arbitrages and like machine learning and testing. And then John Maxwell is someone who helped me understand that if someone can do something 80% as well as you, you should delegate it. And I learned if a computer can do it 80% as well as a human, you should automate it. And then I've just gradually applied those frameworks on different things to helping business owners like you guys at CSI. And it's just been a huge blessing. I'm just so thankful that I've been given the opportunity by God. I'm just, couldn't be happier.
Yeah, awesome. So you live on the east side of the world. Is that right? East Coast?
In the Northeast, yes.
Yeah. So you and I were just having a discussion just the other day, and this kind of sort of goes back again. Are you considered a millennial? Is that right?
Unfortunately, I think I do technically meet the classification. Hopefully not all of the behaviors, but the classification of a millennial.
Yeah, that's well, obviously there's a broad reach of millennials on their opposite ends of the spectrum, just like anybody. But I know that they tend to get a bad rap, is why I wanted to talk about that. And I've gotten to know you personally. I've gotten to understand your work ethic, and you deliver such amazing, content, and you do such an amazing job. I mean, the Veth Group was started how long ago? And then, from one employee to however many you got now. Talk a little bit about, the Veth Group and the formation of that.
So thank you for the question. So only 3 years old. So started it in 2018 in the spring. So just over 3 years old. We've got about 100 clients. So we've 2 of the Fortune 500 and 98 businesses that aren't in the Fortune 500, which for me, I think serving small businesses is really a passion because that's what I grew up in with my dad. About 10 employees. It's really been a simple goal for me. I think it's Danny Myers, someone I really admire, the restaurateur in New York City. And he's talked a lot about how if you take care of employees, they'll take care of customers. And I have the distinct privilege of working with you every day, Carter, whereas you're not usually meeting my employees as much as you are me. For most of our customers, probably 95 of them, someone else is the face of Veth Group. And I think I've tried to learn, if I take care of those employees, how that can create energy that will then positively flow to the customer. And if we first put our people first, and then second say, how do we understand the needs of that customer? And I've sort of bucketized it in 2 folds. One of them is marketing results, and the other one is how we make people feel. And as just like you said, as financial advisors, I think it's really cool what you guys do at CSI, because marketing is consumed partly as an emotional service, like everything, and partly as a logical rationalization of ROI. And I've learned that serving people requires both, and following the customer's need. If I'm logically trying to make sure they make money off their marketing, started out with automating email. It led to building brands. It led to starting a podcast. It's leading to qualifying first calls and training sales reps, and gradually going down the funnels, up and down the funnels to create demand. And that's been really, really fun. And then we're a kind of explicitly Christian business. So we actually tithe 10% of the profit. So that taking care of customers has led to really being blessed with surplus that we've been able to actually distribute to people in need all around the world. So it's been just like really cool to see that hierarchy form. And I don't, like you said, it's old fashioned hard work. I'm by no means some kind of savant who's fixed marketing across the board, but I think hard work tends to make you look smarter than you are.
Well, my I guess we'll call him my mentor, the gentleman that brought me into this business. And for those enrichers who know me and know my backstory, you know what I'm talking about. He used to have this saying all the time, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this. He used to tell me all the time, Carter, luck is spelled W-O-R-K, right? The harder you work, the luckier you get. So, it's been, I'm sure it's the fruition of, what's happened, and, the fruits of your labor are, I guess, for, manifesting itself whenever you are doing what it is you're doing. Now, by the way, I did not know that I get you, only 5% of your clients get you. I happen to be one of apparently the lucky ones. And I don't know what it was that happened when we first started our relationship. I know it's been close to a year when we first started having a conversation, I think. But, I feel blessed, honestly, to have you, especially knowing that the face of the Veth group, normally for 95% of your clientele is not you.
Yeah, I've tried to learn to scale, but there's certain people I think, you just have a feeling like they're ones you should hold on to working with. And I remember when we stopped doing emailing together, when you didn't have a need for it, I called you and I was like, hey, I just want to do something for CSI. Like, what can I do? And we came up with LinkedIn. And yeah, there's a few of those customers. I'd say 2% of them, probably 1 out of every 50, where you meet them and you just say, I want to stay involved as if I was their employee. And that's been something that's really been enjoyable. But I've learned the importance of learning to scale. And I don't think there's any service delivered better than that by a CEO in most cases. I hate to call myself a CEO at 10 people, but delivered by a person who's an entrepreneur, because there's that caring for the baby. But I have had to learn how to put some walls around myself at the same time. If you can't have 100 people talking to you that way, or you won't help any of them.
Yeah, well, obviously as the CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group, I've had to do much of the same thing. And as much as I'd love to be able to work one-on-one with my advisors, it becomes unscalable, right? And there's only so much time in the day to be able to give your attention and give the support, especially the ones who were the early adopters who came on with you and whenever you were just getting started. And, I think of a former guest on here, Scott Garcia, that Tim James knows. Scott was an early adopter. And honestly, truth be told, and I think he would even agree to this, I don't know what he would do without me. I don't know if he would be able to be like, wait a second. So I know I get all these things, but I can't text Carter, at 6 o'clock at night or, a Saturday afternoon or whatever. And that's just the life in which he's grown accustomed. So I can appreciate scaling up, but there are certain individual, advisors that we work with that, right, wrong, or different, I just can't hand them over to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that for me, like you guys have heard him talk about my faith. I think a lot of it, I believe, God in the form of the Holy Spirit will tug on your heart, where it's sometimes I just get a tug. Like I feel like this is someone I'm supposed to invest in. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of chasing money. So they think that money is this like end goal that's so important. And then the way to make money, everyone tells you, is stop doing any of the work, because, if you can just get other people to do it, that's scalable. And then, there's a spread between the employee and what you charge. And And I think the mistake they make is they either stop being able to empathize with the employee because they're not doing their job anymore, or they stop really being able to empathize with the client because they're too far removed. And I think a lot of people make this mistake of they take a big client and they say, I'm a CEO, I'm only going to focus on the huge clients. And I've taken the approach of I'm going to focus on the people who I believe if I called them and said, I'm in a bind, how can I help your business because I need work? Those people would always pick up the phone and actually care about my well-being like I want to care about theirs. And you being one of those people where I just know that you're the kind of person, if I needed a place for my wife to stay, or if I needed a job, or if I needed anything, or vice versa, and you realize when those types of people, and you can see it when you're funneling through hundreds of them in a process, like we are in a transactional business, you see ones that are like, the way that person talks or thinks or texts or trusts or whatever it is different. And those are the ones that I've made sure I don't ever in any way obstruct their access to me or take myself at all out of the service. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that we're coming up on a break here and everything. And I think that might be a good segue where I want to talk about what it is that you are specifically, doing for CSI Financial Group. And I think, honestly, the main reason why, I wanted to get you on the podcast simply because we've got to promote the Veth Group because it's been, an amazing relationship, partnership as far as I'm concerned. But I know that we definitely want to talk about specifically why you wanted to come on here to talk about what you're doing for CSI Financial Group and how my advisors really need to understand. And even Tim James can talk about this. I don't know how many times he said, dude, if you're not working with CSI Financial Group, like what's wrong with you? Right. And that's not to sound, bloviating or making it, exaggerative whatsoever, but I definitely know that I want to talk about that too. So Tim James, are we coming up on a break, or is there anything you want to, chat about before or ask Miles before we go there?
Well, it is break time. So I'm really excited to get this information from Miles too, about like what you see from your point of view, from the marketing standpoint, on what separates CSI Financial from, other organizations, and what they're doing to actually help financial advisors blow their business up. We'll be right back.
Are you concerned about being able to get all of your affairs in order during this trying time? Are you troubled by what would happen if you ever became incapacitated? Maybe you've been procrastinating in the past to address these issues, but now, more than ever before, you know just how important it is to get everything documented. Well, don't worry, because we can get you taken care of right from the comfort of your own home. Welcome to the revolutionary My Life Card Plan estate plan processing platform, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. We are very pleased you are here, and rest assured, we can offer you a complete estate planning experience regardless of where in the 50 states you may live. Our unique transformational system combines efficiency, convenience, and professional support at levels you never thought possible for setting up your estate plan. Moreover, we will provide you with powerful, user-friendly dynamics that put you in total control of your plan throughout your lifetime. Call us today at 888-316-6040 or go to www.csifinancialgroup.com, and our team of specialists will be there to assist you every step of the way.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house, we've got Miles Veth from vethgroup.com. We'll put that description in the link. I already checked out your page, Miles. It's pretty freaking cool. And what I've liked so far about you is, like, normally when, you get on the phone with tech people, they try to wow you with all of their knowledge, or they'll tend to like rip on other companies, and then sell. There's no point for me so far. It's podcast, we're just laid back and stuff, but I can kind of tell you have a different approach. Maybe you were a little desperate in the beginning, but now not so much. I don't know, but I think it's your values and stuff are really shining through. And I like your thirst for knowledge and all the books you picked up. So if anybody's listening here, whether you're a financial advisor or you're a business owner and you'd like to get some more online marketing, I can already tell, like, I've made that transition from, the guy, financial advisor, whatever, selling face-to-face in front of people all day to going to an e-commerce business. And it's a whole new industry and it's a whole new world. And you have things to learn like copywriting and writing your subject lines so people will open the damn email. Doesn't matter how good your email is. If they don't click and open it, it's like pointless, right? Direct marketing, just positioning, things that you're doing on social media. So I can just tell you that I have a really good feeling from my knowledge that I've learned in the last 7 years being having an e-commerce business that it feels right to at least get a quote from you or work with you. So I just want to thank you for that. So now why don't we get into what have you noticed about CSI Financial and what do you like about them?
Well, thank you for that compliment. You're very kind. I think I've been blessed. I grew up with two entrepreneurs, my dad and his brother, who pretty much from the cradle I've been around this. So I think that quiet confidence is probably more to thank in them than anything that I've figured out myself. But CSI Financial Group, I think, is a fascinating opportunity. And I'm very close to this space because I help financial advisors try to get clients. I've helped mortgage loan officers try to recruit other loan officers. I've helped life insurance salespeople both solicit business and recruit others. And I've seen a lot of different things. And the first thing that strikes me about Carter, which I really respect, is he was a top producer at a very competitive company. And I just refuse to believe that if you can't do it, you can teach it. Everyone says coaching and playing are separate. And I understand Bill Belichick up in my neck of the woods was not a player, but he's the best coach or whatever for the Patriots. But the majority, I think, of great coaches I read about Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill, when he was 16 years old, was a POW who escaped from a prisoner of war camp and went back to the front lines at 16. By the time he was leading all of England at the age of 60, he had done every job you could have in the military. And I think Carter, first off, embodies that. If he really understands what it takes to win, and he's done this long enough, and similar to the ethos I'm trying to bring, I think he is accessible and generous and willing to help. And CSI takes that all-encompassing approach like what we're trying to do at Veth Group. And I've learned from him in terms of how he supports his larger base of clients than I have, of it's all hands on deck to make them successful. So I think the first thing that strikes me about them is they care. They're not just trying to add another advisor for no reason. They're not signing people up who won't benefit. They're not going to Edward Jones people that can't help with a certain service and tricking them into signing up for a month, like so many people that sell in that space. But I think that the other thing that really strikes me about CSI is it makes me think of a quote by Steve Jobs where he said, "We can't be better than our competition. We have to be different." And all the financial advisors that I've ever worked with are fixated on, in my experience, two things: either basically the fact that they're trustworthy, or the fact that a certain product needs to be in the hands of a customer. So every outreach they do is about that. Do you have a Roth IRA? I care so much about my clients, and I'm world class. And I've seen lots of them take the Veth Group platform, which, for lack of a better term, imagine if I'm a financial advisor in Detroit, Michigan, I want to see every CEO in Detroit, Michigan's email address in a system, shooting out emails all day so their responses come back to me to book meetings. Veth Group has automated that at 1/100th of the cost of Zoom info. And we do all the copywriting. So it's we're doing it at very powerful scale. And I've seen financial advisors correct me on how I want to write copy for them with very generic things like their investment returns or their track record or their trust or the fact that people need insurance, or trying to target someone who just had a baby on Facebook with life insurance ads. And it's so focused on them. I think what I've noticed about CSI that is really, really unique is they are taking the approach of understanding what would a client care about and backing into taking care of yourself, which is biblical, which, I think like it works. So what Carter's figured out is if you provide an amazing experience around estate planning, helping people plan for their future, helping people decide what their legacy is going to be, they will want to become your customer and they'll leave better off. And I was telling him the other day, I'm passionate about the work I'm doing for CSI to help them get the word out, because I don't even have any kids at the moment. And I spent well over an hour 2 Saturdays ago writing down 100 goals I had relative to having a family, like how I'd want to parent kids, and the things like wanting to leave them each a passive income property, wanting like Veth Group to reach a certain size, wanting to pay for their kids' college, like my grandkids' college, like whatever these different goals are. And I realized that's legacy, and that's what Carter's doing. And he's teaching advisors, stop shoving product down people's throats, stop tricking them into trying to refer their friends, stop pretending you want to catch up with people only to try to sell them, and actually think about what they need, which is how to steward their resources while they're on this planet. And the platform they've done and the results they're generating, I think, speak for themselves. So I couldn't be a bigger fan. And I've seen the issue he's, fixing all day long with, 5 people I've done it for. So sorry, that was probably long-winded.
No, are you kidding me? I'm just, that's awesome. And, I am one of, for sake of full transparency, I am one of your clients, but what really, impressed me and what you impressed upon me is your appreciation for recognizing that. And I've said this in many, many, many conversations, and I have a recruiting video, quote unquote, right? I call it recruiting because that's what we call it in the industry, but really I'm just trying to get the message out that and get these advisors to understand that product is not the unmet need in this industry. And what I go on to tell them is that, and your clients know that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, wait, you have products to sell me? I had no idea. I wasn't expecting that, from a financial advisor, right? And really what we have tried to do is this multidisciplinary team approach is to ultimately help advisors right out of the gate, if they tap into our entire resources, is to make them look bigger than they are, right? Because, and the other thing that I'll share with a lot of times independent solopreneurs, even though they don't call themselves that, in my space, they really are, for all intents and purposes, a one-man or a one-woman show. Maybe maybe it's a husband and wife duo and things like that. But guess what? You're competing against the Edward Joneses of the world and Raymond James of the world and Ameriprises of the world. And when clients have an option, they would much rather feel like they have an entire team of people to help them than just your great trustworthiness and your product you're trying to sling to me. Right. And that's why, at the end of the day, honestly, I think that's why a lot of captive agents or captive advisors stay captive, because they grow accustomed. And those companies, they know that. Edward Jones and Ameriprise and Bankers Life and New York Life, captive, organizations, they know that these agents and advisors need all of their resources and their tools. And then they rake them over the coals and they get like a 50% payout or whatever it is. But then what ends up happening is that they needed all those tools for so long, and they got all these like renewals or all these clients. It's virtually impossible for them to break free and become independent. So a lot of the advisors we work with learned early on that they felt like they could do that themselves. So we wanted to create an environment where advisors, even if it's early on in their stage of growth, that they had a resourceful, partner in the respective growth of their industry and their company, because they believed in themselves that they could do that. But how do they do that? Well, CSI Financial Group just decided to build it all. We just built it all. Build this team. We had the foundational approach of estate planning, which is in and of itself a differentiator, because the conventional wisdom tells most advisors and even their clients and prospects that they're after to work with that in order to get my estate plan work done, who do I have to go see?
Attorney.
They have to go see an attorney, right? The conventional wisdom tells them that, and the legal profession has done a phenomenal job of conveying that, making them feel that way. So because of the tools that we use and because of the platform that we've got, we now have the ability to have the advisor be the quarterback of a team that includes attorneys, but it's not the be all end all. And when clients find out that they can actually work directly with their trusted advisor, or this advisor who's trying to work with them tells them something that no other advisor has told them, it becomes the wedge that separates those current advisors that they may be working with to now come and work with our advisors that have this entire team that surrounds them. So that's the thing that I think, and you can reinforce this, but I think that was a thing that really helped you appreciate just how different this is. It's not like we're saying it's different. We're like, no, it is different. And I was just having a conversation with a company over the last couple of weeks. They have 50,000 participants. And we started talking to them about how we can deliver educational information on estate planning that, as far as I'm concerned, anybody who has assets needs an estate plan. And I'm not talking about people who don't consider themselves wealthy. I'm saying if you have assets, and obviously we've been talking with you, and you're better half, and I know we're going to be trying to help you out here, fairly in short order. But I'm like, look, I've already thought about all the things that you need. They were like asking me all these questions, and I'm like, let's get you through the demo. Let's get you to understand what the process and the platform is and everything. But just know this: we have been laser focused on delivering content and educational videos for your already existing clientele that all leads what estate planning's need and why it's not just for millionaires and billionaires, which again is the conventional wisdom. So we just had that meeting today, and I said, here's the email that goes out. Here's all the deliverables. Here's all this. Here's all that. And she was just like, love it. Love it. It's awesome. And she was thinking that she was going to tell me some things that she would like to have done. Well, guess what? We already knew what was missing, what was lacking, and what needed to be created. So I have another, phrase that I use, if you build it, they will come. So that's what I did. I built something that just doesn't currently exist that enables an individual producer, advisor, agent, whatever they want to call themselves, planner, to tap into a system that's completely turnkey, that is all about client acquisition, client retention, and ultimately generational control. So anyway, I think, and I know that was long-winded too, but I think that's what you've grown to appreciate on what the Veth Group has done on our LinkedIn, on really being able to frame that in so many different ways that really helps you appreciate what we've done.
And I think you brought up a great point. It's every stage of the funnel. It's, you want to make a new relationship. This is a better tip of the spear. Like I've always thought, if I was in the recruiting industry, which I've never been, other than for the marketing we do, I would just reach out and say, hey, salesperson, do you want to know the highest 3 paid sales jobs in all of Austin, Texas? Happy to email them over. Because that's interesting to the candidate. Everyone wants to say, I have a new job. Do you want to put your name in? Because they want to show their client they got a lead. But what's interesting to the candidate is that, and I think about for advisors, if you put on the hat of the client, like you said, I get Roth IRA emails 85 times a day. Do you want a Roth IRA? I didn't even know what it was until last week. One of my friends happened to explain it offhandedly on the phone. And it's just funny because you're right. It all looks the same. And I've had people yell at me about the fact that I didn't have life insurance on myself before I was married or something. I'm just thinking like this, whether or not I'm right or wrong, you're not making me feel like you care. And number two, it's like, I just don't have that. Like at that point in life, I didn't have many assets or much to lose. Like no one was counting on me. I had $10,000 in the bank. So I look at that as like, they're like, you need a whole life policy. It's like, and again, without knowing all the details, it's just thinking like, well, if I pay into this every month and it's such a great investment, and insurance companies own 80% of the assets in the stock market, you must have a more risk-free way of making the spread than you're paying me on the product, or else it wouldn't make sense for you to do this at scale. And not that I was so smart or that there's not reasons to do whole life. I understand the discipline, and I'm sure we'll get into it when we keep talking to you. Like, whether my perception is even right or wrong, it's just, you're right. If someone came to me and said, I want to help you understand how much income you have to make every year to put your grandkids through college, I would want to talk to them. Yeah. And the funny thing is, no one wants to do that. They skip the step, and I think I love parallel analogies in marketing. I think dating is an interesting analogy because my generation has grown up with dating technology, unlike your guys' generation, where like you're in these constant like matchmaking platforms. And it's so interesting because when you look at how they work, it's just people saying like, look how smart I am, look how great I am, look how great I am, look how great I am all day. And the one person I've always thought who, if they were just to walk around on one of these apps and just go, don't you hate this thing? They'd get like 99% of the conversations, because again, it's different and it's empathetic, and I think you've done that, is you've realized this is the need in the market. And I have like successful relatives or family and I've noticed like their pain is not products. Like a lot of people have been, whether or not it's a good idea, they've been sold the idea that, the SPY is the best investment in the world.
No, you have to find out what the problem is, and then the tool will be very clear. Yeah. Kind of reminds me, I know, Carter, if I brought this up before, but an analogy that you'll probably like, Miles, is that there was this little old lady, and she went into her stove wasn't working, and she came into the stove store to get a new stove, and the salesman came up and he's like, this is the X1000 and it's 1600 BTUs per and all this stuff. And he rattled on for 20 minutes. And when he was done, she's like, well, let me ask you a question. He's like, yeah, go ahead. Will it keep an old lady warm? That's all she wanted. She just wanted will it keep me warm? And he went on off on all this stuff. So that's, I think where people get today, we get into too much of this product, and it's it's an index universal life, and man, you can use it. It's a Swiss Army knife to financial planning. It can be a life insurance policy. It can be a tax savings account. You can take tax-free income out. You can be your own bank, and there's.
I love that one. It's like it can't be that easy to be your own bank given all the regulations on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, back when I was selling it, actually. It was a pretty cool tool.
There's no doubt about that, right? I mean, and I think what they've tried to do is, again, they're trying to spin it in a different type of a way to connote like something that you're comfortable with, right? Be your own bank. Well, it sounds interesting, right? So people are gonna maybe want to inquire about that.
Yeah. Hey, instead of paying your credit union, your bank 5% for your trailer loan or your car loan, how about we show you how to become your own bank? Maybe not right now, but we can work towards that over the next 10 years. And then for the rest of your life, you can pay your self-interest. How does that sound? That somebody might click on that. They might open it, might be more interested than, let me sell you a life insurance policy. So anyway, we're coming up on it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I think you're exactly. And that's the same idea. I think what Carter's tapped into that's different is, I guess I'd leave it at this, is if you can get to the point where you're asking someone how they want to be remembered when they die, you probably know the single most intimate thing about them. Yeah. I think to start the conversation, to break through the noise there, everything else is downhill. Whereas if I'm just trying to sell your product, I'm just another one of the three people you look at quotes from. I think getting into legacy as this umbrella that becomes all these other things, I think is the begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey. And the fact that he's made it so easy for an advisor to plug into that if they don't have the resources themselves, I think is where the magic is, and why he's got 300 people voting with their wallets that they believe in it. So that's how
you know what, Miles, you might have just cracked the code for dating too. That might be the best one-liner ever. It's like, hey baby, when you die, what do you want to be remembered by?
I know. I'm thinking of dying soon. Do you mind reading my obituary? Yeah. Well, I have a wife. So
nobody's asking that question before, I would guarantee you.
I won't be able to test it, but I guess if any listener doesn't and has some success, they can let the three of us know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to flip the script, and Miles gets to ask me any question on health. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com. What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here with my co-host Carter Wilcox, and today we've got Miles Veth, V-E-T-H, in the house. Miles, thanks for being here. So now we're going to flip the script. No more marketing talk or what we're going to do with Roth IRAs. Now we're going to talk about health. So what health question or questions do you have for me?
So I feel like there's so many good ones. I would love your perspective on the danger of the coronavirus from a health perspective. Like, I've heard people from huge hospitals say this is the worst plague ever, which I think the Black Plague killed more people from the little bit I've read. But then I do hear nurses on the ground at Yale New Haven right up the street who say they see people with no comorbidities pass away from this who are 42 years old. And I have struggled to make sense of the health ramifications of a virus, and I would love your perspective on how dangerous is this thing actually.
Well, that's a pretty good question. I think a lot of people are still, asking that question, and I think that we have to look at life pre-corona. Where were we with our health as Americans? Right. Well, we're the sickest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. That's where we were. Okay. So whether it's the corona or a cold or the flu or pneumonia, that makes us more susceptible, right? So take some guy that's got, he's had, stents put in his heart, angioplasty, bypass surgery. He's not changing his lifestyle, and he just keeps coming back and $50,000 surgery here, blah, 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 blah. And then he, then he gets hypertension. He's on blood pressure medications. And, and he ends up finding himself in the hospital and gets pneumonia and dies. So did he die of the pneumonia? Or it could be corona. Maybe corona. Did he die of corona? No, he died because he had poor health. That's the bottom line. So if us as a country have poor health, and people have to realize that 80% of us before corona and still now today are overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. And the more weight we have on us, up goes our disease, whether it's heart attack, cancer, COPD, MS, Hashimoto's, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, diverticulitis, all these gut issues, fibromyalgias, whatever it is. Everything goes up. Diabetes, it goes up. So, a lot of people get really polarized on this topic, right? Because I have, you see people they're getting jabbed, right? And they have on Facebook, I've got my jab and you need to go get yours. And they're out promoting it, and they're wearing masks and they're putting masks on their children. Well, those people are actually interested in health. That's the reality. Otherwise, they wouldn't go get jabbed and they wouldn't put masks on. There's another camp that has probably either done the due diligence or just goes along with what they're hearing, and they're never going to get a vaccine. And they're never going to wear a mask because they learn stuff like, they understand that there's oral health issues by wearing masks. It raises the core temperature of your mouth, which creates more acidity. And then the oral microbiome, or the bacteria in the mouth, there's about 700 of them. And 3 of them, as an example, one of them being gingivitis, goes crazy and grows out of control. And that's why dentists are reporting a 50% increase in tooth decay, tooth rot, gum disease. It's because the disruption of the oral microbiome, right? So, what we really need to do is look deeper. And the real issue is infrastructure in this country. We have poor infrastructure. It's we're rated a D- in infrastructure right now. And if you look at the turn of the century, where were we in infrastructure in big cities? It was terrible. Terrible sanitation, urine, feces in the streets. There was dead cows in the water, dead horses in the water. We were very sick. Infectious diseases were terrible. I mean, it was killing lots of people. Measles, as an example, killed 14 people out of every 100,000 in the United States was dying of just the measles. It's tremendously high rates. But by the 1950s, mid-50s, 96% of the measles was eradicated. The measles vaccine came in 1963. So was it the vaccine that saved us? No. What was it? It was the women's labor movement that started at the late turn of the century, 1800s, that fought for the 8-hour workday, that fought for safe working environments, because it used to be dangerous to go to work. Like, you could die. They fought for better pay. They fought for sanitation. They got the sanitation worker and the plumber hired, and they cleaned up the urine and the feces in the streets, and they got the dead horses, the dead cows of the water, and our health went up, and infectious diseases dropped like a rock, right? So it's always about the environment, and it's always going to be up to the working class people taking care of themselves. It's not going to come from politicians or elites. And the medical system is broke. The medical system and vaccines and stuff is based on an outdated model of the immune system. It's like 150-year-old model. It's the only thing they talk about is the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. The innate being like, the microbiome that is in your mouth that protects you, and you have bacteria on your skin, and there's these things that are like sentries. They're like, I would say like army. Maybe you got the frontline army troops out there, right? Or, something like that. And they're protecting you from that's their first level of defense, right? But they don't talk about the modern system, where we talk about the gut bacteria being part of the immune system, the brain being part of it, and our interferon system, which wants and desires to be exposed to viruses and bacteria and molds and stuff like this, because it develops resilience. Like, you think about it, maybe you had some friend of yours that grew up, his parents were wealthy, he had a cushy life, and now you really can't make nothing of himself, and he struggles with life. Whereas maybe where you struggled a little bit and you had to fight for everything, and you got tougher and you got a thicker skin, and now you go out into the real world and you kick ass, right? It's just, it's the same thing with lifting weights. Like, if you lift a broomstick every day, your chest muscles aren't going to be that big. But if you put some resistance there, you're going to build muscle, right? It's the same thing with the immune system. When you get exposed to something that's called natural herd immunity, your body takes it in, and over 2 days, it develops the natural antibodies, which is just one part of the immune system. It's not just antibodies. That's another story, but it develops this whole intricate system that will protect you. And now your immune system becomes 1,000 times stronger. So if that virus mutates, which they do all the time, it has different variances of levels of protection to protect you. So my opinion on the corona deal is that, there's been very much manipulation on data. I've had many people on my show, like Senator Dr. Scott Jensen, who is, he's an active senator in the Senate. And also in 2016, I believe he was the voted number one doctor in the state of Minnesota for family physicians. So this guy's doing good stuff, right? And he said after 30 years, they are making him change how he fills out a death certificate. All of a sudden, magically, when the coronavirus is here. And again, it goes back to, you have heart disease, you have all these issues, and then you die. And then if you test positive for corona, then they're told that they have to put the death down as corona. Even though he's like, no, it's heart disease, right? It's like, it wasn't pneumonia that killed the dude. It wasn't, the flu that killed him. It was because he had he had heart disease. That was the major underlying cause of this death. The pneumonia, the flu, the cold, the corona was just the icing on the cake that, put him over the edge. But the reason behind it is because, in his state, he said, I think, and for pneumonia as an example, I think they get like $5,000, $4,500. That's what the hospital gets. But if they simply market corona, they get like $13,000. So there's a big, huge financial incentive for hospitals to mark that. It's a lot of money, big money.
Or to assume it and not test for it.
Yeah. And then, if they put you on a ventilator, then they get, total $39,000 total. So it's really good money if you have corona or some type of a fluid infection in your lungs, to market as corona and then put you on a respirator. Even though now that you put on somebody on a respirator, that's probably going to kill them in over 80% of the cases, because your lungs are already filled with fluid. It's just a mechanical deal at that point. You start putting pressure into lungs and your alveoli already filled up with fluid. You're just going to blow up your lungs and kill people. So the whole thing with the respirators was, like Dr. Jensen said, give the doctors the benefit. They didn't know, they were just trying to figure it out at the time, but it's literally a death sentence for somebody to put them on a respirator. It's really dumb. And we think about how many man hours and money was spent just trying to get these respirators out to hospitals to kill us, right? So we're looking at a medical system that's obviously, it's broke. We spend 3.3 trillion on healthcare in this country. We're based on a 100-year-old outdated view of the immune system. Pharmaceutical companies write the textbooks for the doctors. They take a Hippocratic oath at the very end that says, "I will do no harm." That was based on Hippocrates, the father of medicine, supposedly. But they missed the big part where he said, "Let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food." And he healed people from all kinds of problems using food and herbs and medicine and massage and touch and working things out with people's relationships. Stress is a big killer today. In fact, Paramedes and Hippocrates both said that, give me the power to create fever and I can cure all disease, right? Look, and what happens when you get a flu? Your body creates a fever and it knocks the virus out, right? So there's ways that people can create. As an example, we would teach people that are flat broke and don't have the money to buy an infrared sauna how to take a ginger bath. You get powdered ginger and you put 1 cup of that in a bathtub, as an example. Hot water, as hot as you can get it. Do not get any of this ginger in your eyes. It burns. Okay, it's super hot. And then you get into the tub and you kind of swish it around, especially for women in the genital area, because it can be hot. It'll burn you a little bit, the guys there at the tip. But you get in there for 20 minutes and you get out and you pat yourself off really good. Don't wash the stuff off. And then you put on long john tops, long john bottoms, socks, and then a sweatshirt, sweatpants, and then wrap up in like 3 towels. Wash your hands, make sure not to touch your eyes with it, and then go to sleep. And you're going to lay there in bed and you're going to create a fever. It's going to raise your core temperature up, and you're going to. So this is an old school way of creating a fever. So if you're around somebody with pneumonia or corona or a cold and you don't want to get sick, or you feel like a touch of that stuff coming on, you could do an old school ginger bath and raise your core temperature. The easier way to do it today without getting your eyes burnt or your genitals is taking infrared saunas, right? These things are very powerful. Carter, did you get your sauna yet?
I have not got my sauna yet. No.
All right,
well, too busy helping advisors. He doesn't have any time to sauna.
Well, we're going to get him on this because this is going to help him out. If it's like one of the best hacks. Actually, we made this sauna now. It's now required in our one-on-one VIP coaching. People have to purchase it. So good news. I've been a sauna dealer for 8.5 years, but I sold my $5,400 unit. I got this little $1,300 or $1,900 unit, so it's affordable. You plug it into a 110. But anyway, you can hop in this thing, and this thing in 25 minutes can raise your core temperature to 3.2 degrees. There is no other sauna that can do this. All the other saunas are maybe 1 degree to 1.5 degrees. So you have yourself a little healing box, a little harmful organism destruction box, something that'll reduce inflammation, boost your immune system big time, increase circulation, helps with sleep, weight loss, all kinds of stuff. So that's at thehealthysauna.com. If you want to check it out, I created a landing page so people can get the damn sauna. It's so good. But it's a question it's really loaded with a lot of what you said was about Corona. What's the deal? It's loaded with a lot of polarity, because we have to understand that the elites have been using divide and conquer strategies for years, right? It's Republican versus Democrat, black versus white, anti-vax versus vax, mask versus anti-mask, right? And they pit us against each other. And then we keep looking at these surface level issues and fighting amongst ourselves. And they have people on both sides of the aisle. I mean, I'm actually typing up an essay right now that I'm part of the Truth, Freedom, and Health movement. One of my leadership and training programs, I have to write a 300-word essay. I'm like double that. But, one of the things that people don't realize is that, it's that women's labor movement that drove the success of America, that got the infrastructure, that got the health, that got the better wages, and all that. And everybody, go back to the 50s and look. I mean, one person could go out and work, and there's tons of income. You could have a home, save money, and the other spouse could stay home and raise the kids with your values and teach the kids, right? And there was community there. Now what's happened is both mom and dad are forced out into the workplace. Somebody else is raising the kids. What values are they teaching them? I don't know. They're just throwing, freaking animal crackers at them, those goldfish deals, right? And, and there's some do better than others, but, it's probably on average not the best thing for the kids. And the kids, again, 40% of children are obese today. I mean, we got some major problems with our kids, right? So it's this Republican versus Democrat thing. We have to understand that it doesn't work, okay? Because the Republicans in 1970 got together with the Democrats and they said, hey, look, working class movement is communism. And Americans got pissed. My mom and dad are tried and true Democrats. I mean, they will, because of that deal, because of the communist comments that the Republicans made in the 1970s against the working class movement. But then the Democrats came in and said, hey, we're for the working class. We're going to create the labor unions. And they put the top-down unions on top of the actual grassroots movement and capped it. And up until 1970, from the 1900s, 200 million Americans striked for better wages, better pay, better work environments, and better infrastructure, and we got it. And that's what made America great. But in the early 1970s, the Republicans and Democrats crushed that movement. And since then, the last 50 years, do you guys know how many people have striked for better pay, better work? 2 million. So in 70 years, we had 200 million. This is way before cell phones, right?
Social media.
Grassroots business, pieces of paper, flyers, people meeting, right? They got it done, and we got what we wanted. And we've gotten lazy. We've been entertained. We've been sitting back where we're doing, fantasy football and getting entertained like the Romans. They put the big, the cathedral together or whatever, and then they doing the, people, bringing in lions and fighting all that stuff and distracting people from reality. And we've lost our freedoms. We've lost our First Amendment. We've lost our health. We've lost our infrastructure. We've lost our wages. $47 trillion from 1970 until today of our hard-earned wages have went to upriver to the elite. So what that means, Miles, is that somebody earning $50,000 today based on GDP growth should be making $120,000. That $70,000 of your money is going upriver to the elite. So if we want that back, it has to go back to the movement. We had 1776. We've got our freedom from the British elites, and the early 1900s is when that women's labor movement built America to be awesome until 1970s. But it's the people, the Republicans, Democrats, and the elites. They're all working together in conjunction with the news organizations and Hollywood and the judicial system. There's people in there. It's highly infiltrated. But the good news is there's a hell of a lot more of us than there ever will be of them. So if we just unite again, which is what we're doing in the Truth, Freedom, and Health movement, it's truly a working class grassroots movement, then we can get back our health. And, if you want to go look, you guys can look this up. Dr. Shiva, SHIVA, letter to President Trump. Dr. Shiva, letter to President Trump, PDF, put that in your browser. And he actually wrote a letter on how to attack this corona pandemic and what to do so that we could have no shutdowns and everybody would be good. And he was you as a person would go into 4 different categories. Either somebody that was healthy, that was not affected with it, what to do, somebody that was not healthy, that wasn't affected, somebody that was in critical care, and then somebody that was, maybe immunocompromised, but, doesn't have, there's 4 different categories. And he gives you, take this much vitamin A, take this much vitamin D, take some iodine, vitamin C, or high dose vitamin C if you're, in critical condition. And that's it. And the only people should be quarantined are the ones that are, have tremendous amounts of other health issues, and if you go back and read that letter, it's just clear as day. I mean, everything points back to a movement, right? So I know that was a big, huge answer, but a huge answer. But the reality is we have to get off of these surface level issues. We have to get to the root of the problem of our health issues. And the root of the problem is we have poor infrastructure in this country. And poor infrastructure is directly related to poor health. If we had, everybody was in shape and all this stuff, regardless if you think Corona was like, natural or man-made, or it came from monkeys, or Fauci made it with Obama, and, all these, it doesn't really matter. The reality is we have poor health. And if we're going to get it back, coronavirus or not, we have to get infrastructure. And the people in power today are not getting the job done. And it's because a lot of good, hard working people like us entrepreneurs, we're busy building our businesses, and we've let these jackos go in there and take these, city council, mayors, Senate. I mean, look at some of these people that are working in our government. I mean, it's embarrassing, actually. It's embarrassing, some of the level of the quality of individuals that are in our government today. It's really embarrassing. So, yeah, that's that. So there you go.
Yeah. And if I've learned one thing about human history, it is that, and I think this is one of the biggest arguments for Christianity, is you return to this idea that we have a really hard time consistently being kind to each other. And this human history is full of endless examples of the stronger person has a very hard time being kind to the weaker person when there's not self-interest associated with that. And I think that governments, all these, like you said, all of these systems would work if we were kind to each other and also took care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest issue is that if what's happening is, whether you have socialism or communism or capitalism or whatever it is there's always a marginalized party. And that marginalized party, or the less powerful party, is at the mercy of the more powerful party. And James Madison said it: if a majority is united by common interest, the rights of the minority will be insecure. And they knew that. I mean, de Tocqueville said they knew that the only way democracy would function would be if there was a higher moral standard of how we had to treat each other. Back to what Carter and I got into, these business relationships that are actually based off caring and sacrifice, and not just based off trying to make money off each other at all costs. Mm-hmm. I think if I've learned anything, it's that like you said, us as whether or not the vaccine is bad or the virus is real or the China, whatever it is, my ability to control that's a lot less than my ability to, like, in my immediate circle, be the change I want to see in the world. And like you said, if all three of us do that, and we get three more to do that, and they get three more to do that, the world can change really quickly. And that's why I'm passionate about building Veth Group. I'm 28 years old, so I feel really blessed to be doing this at a young age. Like, I want to build a company. I'm never going to get to as big as Facebook if I don't use outside money, but I want to get to the point where I can swing a little bit of weight and moving the conversation in a positive direction, because the airwaves in our country are just completely controlled by garbage, and it's not helping anyone make wise decisions. I'm just absolutely amazed at and Carter, we've talked about this plenty. It's just like people's like values, and it's just mind-boggling. So it's just like, how do we make a difference? Because the misinformation is there's big an issue. It's always been an issue. I mean, I learned the other day that the taxes in America at the time of the American Revolution on those colonists were 4% of the taxes of an average British citizen. So they're paying 4%. So it's like me striking because I'm getting overtaxed, and Carter's paying 25 times as much in taxes, like pound for pound. And it's just funny, like that doesn't get recorded in the history book because information gets aggregated by the people in power. And I think we've learned anything, it's we have to really make these first principles decisions for ourselves, like you said, of like, I don't think I should put Sour Patch Kids in my body. Those are probably no different than heroin. I know I shouldn't eat them. They're putting something in them that makes me want to eat them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're legalizing it. So like alcohol's, not allowed because of driving while drunk, but you can eat as many Sour Patch Kids or drink as much Coca-Cola as you want, no matter what it does to you. And they're allowed to push it at you all day, and it's addictive. It had cocaine in it.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you think from first principles, it doesn't matter who's saying what, like that's not a good idea. And I think if we just, like Carter and I think we both appreciate that. That's how a lot of our conversations, we talk about politics, is let's think about the basics of what actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
you brought up an important point, is that this stuff is it's being erased from the history books. Like every single person so far that I've talked to, and I've spoken in front of large groups, nobody even knows about the women's labor movement. They were never taught this in any school. They're like, really? And like, nobody even knew that it's like when you heard that 200 million Americans striked for better wages from 1900 to 1970, you're like, really? Like you can't even believe that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? That's a shitload of people.
But
right?
Why would the person in power want you to know that?
Exactly.
Yeah, and the same thing. And we look at Russia and China, and it's very easy for us to say they live in oppressive governments. Or Nazi Germany, they controlled the media. But there are people in our country who are naive enough to think our media is not just as controlled.
Because people don't have time. They have us where they want us, right? Distracted, busy. We're just trying to get out of the house for the weekend and take the kids to the beach.
Which is Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler did that. Like Volkswagen, the people's car, like government-funded beach programs. He was doing all these things in the background, and he just knew if give people a car and give them the dream of a vacation, he could change all the history books and no one would even be paying attention. And it's like you said, it's just like we act like the government isn't so powerful that they can't control things like Facebook. They can print money. They're not accountable to us if they print money. They could buy all the Facebook ads they want and never record it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's stopping them from doing that? Like, they create the currency.
One thing that really frustrated me was like, and here's the deal. It's like all this stuff it's pretty bad, right? Because we are the government, we fund them, but it has to be a movement. There's no other way. But one thing was, what was I going to talk about? We were talking about, I've totally spaced it now.
Making the currency.
Yeah. Printing money.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy to think about though? They can buy Facebook ads as in the billions of dollars. Facebook gets money in their bottom line and the government does not have to tell us that they even did that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. There's a couple things like, it was like, this was like around Obama's time in office, something like we had, trillions of dollars worth of debt, but there was the exact amount of there was trillions of dollars of money that was unaccounted for that was run through military spending.
Yeah.
So enough money that was like, the national debt could have been paid off. We don't even know where the money went, but when the first Corona package came out, supposedly to help us from devastation and all this stuff that's happening, it was caused by the shutdowns. I think it was $900 billion package, right?
Yep.
70% of that money didn't even go to anybody in the U.S. I remember reading one line, $10 million went to Pakistan for gender awareness programs. Like $10 million of taxpayers' money that was supposed to be a corona relief package for Americans was for gender education programs in Pakistan. What the hell? You know what I mean? It's like, who's writing this stuff?
Well, that goes to show you, Tim, what you were just talking about earlier is that left versus right. Us as Americans that aren't actually, rubbing elbows, you have this assumption that, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer don't get along with Mitch McConnell and, Jim Boehner back in the day, right? But they're all hanging out together.
Cocktail parties afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Those idiots.
Yeah,
I just got $12 billion. I got $16 billion from XYZ Corp.
So think about this. How is it possible that there's even one piece of pork like that, right? Just even one. I mean, if everybody didn't know, right? If there was only one person that was like, wait a second, hold on, why are we sending $10 million? So that means you have a whole gaggle of people, left and right, that have said, yeah, we're going to do this because, well, we're going to have it come back to us and get something we want. That's why the whole system's rigged. The whole system is absolutely rigged, and there's no way you're going to convince me that somehow even half of Congress is like $10 million to Pakistan for gender studies. Absolutely, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, and the thing that's crazy when you really get into, like you said, how rigged it is. The number one principle of copywriting is talk in specifics. These politicians only talk in generalities. Yeah. If you stood up and said, line 16 of this bill, we are sending $10 million to Pakistan. Like, I don't know if Mitch McConnell doesn't read the stuff, or his advisors don't read the stuff, or his but they never talk. Like, at least everything I see, it's all these hypotheticals. If one called out the other, they'd all start doing it. And I think and I don't, this is not substantiated. It's completely just opinion, but I've wondered with this election fraud stuff, if at some point there's this tangible evidence of it happening, but the people who would prosecute it on the other side also are guilty of the same thing and just can't actually rig it up because it would turn back on them.
Yeah, well, it is, and we're gonna have to wrap up because I actually have another thing I have to do in 10 minutes. But there, you can go to winbackfreedom.com and you can see Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai has 2 lawsuits. One of them is fighting for our First Amendment. That's at winbackfreedom.com. He's going up against 7 attorneys that are spending probably $350 million to $500 million a day to defend him and against him. And he's suing the Secretary of State of Massachusetts and Twitter for $1.7 billion combined for the government's actually laundering censorship through big tech and media. So that's one lawsuit that's active that you're never going to hear about on the media because the media is implicated. Then you have his other lawsuit, which is where he's showing that there's what's called a weighted race feature inside of all the election software. It doesn't matter what brand it is. What that means is that first off, your vote should go in as a whole number into the system, but it doesn't. It goes in as a fraction. So it goes in as a fraction, which is weird because it should be one person, one vote. Real simple. Why would you need a fractionated system? You need a whole number system. The weighted race feature is used for things like condo associations. You have 4,000 square foot in a condo. I've got 2,000 square foot. You should get 2 times the weight of the vote because you're paying more taxes in that condo, right? That's a weighted race feature. That makes sense for a condo association, but it doesn't make sense for an election unless you're trying to manipulate the election because you can manipulate it remotely. So what that means then is like, Miles, you and I are running for governor of Oregon, let's say, and you get 1,000 votes and I get 1,000 votes. But they give me a value of 1.2. So my 1,000 turns into 1,200 votes and they give you a value of 0.5. So your 1,000 turns into 500 votes. That's the output. I win 1,200 votes to 500. You lose. That's a weighted race feature. So what does that mean? That means that you are now a slave. It's not about the hand counted, the ballots or the dead people voting or all that stuff. The real crime scene is this weighted race feature inside of the machines. And that's what Dr. Shiva is exposing. And at the Senate, I mean, he ran for Senate in Massachusetts. And what ended up happening was he went down because he was like, how is this possible? Like, we had 3,000 volunteers. We raised over almost $2 million. I had billboards. I had radio shows. We canvassed. We had a bus. I went to every county and spoke in front of the city courthouse. And I was up till night educating people on vitamin D because he's also and other health. He's one of the top immune system experts. And the guy's working 24/7, 10,000 bumper stickers, 20,000 yard signs. Nobody even knew who he was running against. Like, even everybody like, you, Shiva, you're going to win this in a landslide. Like, who are you running against anyway? Nobody even knew who the opponent was. No yard signs, no bumper stickers, nothing. He did like 2 radio shows at the very end. And in the one county where it was like 70 or 90% hand counted balance, a white middle class working, he wins by 10 points. All the other counties, he loses 60-40, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40, 60-40. Well, they screwed up because he's also one of the top mathematicians and a pattern analysis experts in the world. And he knew that wasn't the case. So per federal guideline, it's USC code 52-107 or something like that. All images or ballot records have to be kept for federal elections for 22 months. So he went down to get them, to get a forensic audit on them, and they were gone. They don't exist. So that was the problem. He emailed the Secretary of State, and they went back and forth, and the Secretary of State said, Massachusetts law trumps federal law. Sorry, we don't have to keep them. And he's like, send me the law, send me the code. And they never sent him the law or the code. So he posted those emails on Twitter, and then Twitter took him down very quickly. And then he found out that our government, the state election directors, have back channels to Twitter. It's called a trusted Twitter partnership. And there's this whole playbook that was designed at Harvard at the Belford Institute on identifying influence operators. And it's basically, it's like a game plan to censor Americans. So we've lost our First Amendment. And this is happening in court right now. He's fighting right now. That's why everybody should go to winbackfreedom.com and donate at least $1, at least once, but even better on a monthly basis, because we're going to be going to discovery and hopefully deposing the Secretary of State of Massachusetts and deposing Jack Dorsey, the head of Twitter, and, and shining some light on this. But we don't know what's going to happen because we're just fortunate to have a judge that didn't dismiss the case.
Yeah.
It's a 1 in a trillion thing happening around. This is a David versus Goliath deal, and and it's all of us need to get behind Dr. Shiva, because if our First Amendment's, we've lost it and we have to win it back right now. So there is a lot we can do. We just have to, working people need to unite again, and then we can get our freedoms back. We can get our health back. We build our infrastructure. We get our wages back, and then we just can never stop again. The movement has to continue. We never can get lazy again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think I'm excited to hear more about it. Well, it's been a privilege, guys. I know you got to run, Tim, but thank you so much for the opportunity, both of you guys.
Yeah, are you kidding me? Hey, Enrichers, thank you for joining us for another podcast of the Health and Wealth Podcast Show. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. You can get us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts at. You can go to our website, thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com, to be able to see all of our previous shows that we've been able to have all these wonderful guests on, like our very wonderful guest today, Miles Veth from the Veth Group. Miles, thank you very much. For Tim James, my co-host, I am Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group and the architect of the Advisor Partner Platform. Wishing you all a very wonderful day, and we will see you on the next episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast Show. Hey, Enrichers, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James, and by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode, and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.